here in Washington. A new president was about to be sworn in, but Krauthammer wasn't sure what to make of Barack Obama. He got the chance to size him up at a small dinner party hosted by his friend George Will. It was a week before Inauguration Day.
I remember before the president-elect arrived saying, you know, I haven't been able to figure this guy out. Is he a centrist who will occasionally throw a bone to the left, or is he a lefty who will occasionally throw a bone to the right? Nobody had any ideas.
Well, that was part of Mr. Obama's great strength. He was a national Rorschach test.
So we spent 3 hours with this new man. He leaves, and we're staying behind a little bit, and I say, same question. Is he a centrist? Is he a lefty? Nobody knew.
You think you've figured him out?
I figured him out after that first State of the Union speech.
We will invest $15 billion a year to develop technologies like wind power and solar power. We can no longer afford to put health care reform on hold. It will be the goal of this administration to ensure.
I was so astonished that I wrote 5 columns in a row on what kind of unusual political animal he was in giving an agenda as radical as any since FDR. He basically said, I'm not here to tinker. I've come here to transform America.
You've been pretty tough on this administration, this president.
Well, I think he's done just about everything wrong.
But just as he was willing to offend his fellow liberals back in the 80s, he is equally willing to take on conservatives he believes are wrong. Have you seen this mail? From some of the things you've said about Ted Cruz? I mean, I get the emails.
Oh, I know you get the emails. I've seen the tweets. My assistant reads most of my mail, and he's now in therapy. Just kidding.
The Krauthammer on Fox did not appreciate what Cruz did.
If he listened to talk radio, it might really send his assistant over the edge.
Dr. Charles Krauthammer, in the 1980s, he was working for Walter Mondale.
It's my job to call a folly a folly. If you're going to leave the medical profession because you think you have something to say, you're betraying your whole life if you don't say what you think, and you don't say it honestly and bluntly.
Do you think you'll ever stop writing?
No, I intend to die at my desk.
Really?
I would like to. I'm not sure I can arrange it.
20 times a day.
4 times a night.
How often do you feel the urge to go to the bathroom?
I stopped counting.
Count on Azo Bladder Control with naturally sourced pumpkin seed to go less and worry less, and try new weight management.
Why fuss over finding the right car? No need with the Cars.com app. When on the lot, scan a VIN to pull up all the info you need to help get the price you want. Start scanning today.
Better buckle up. That inactive satellite radio of yours is ready to roll because the SiriusXM free listening event is on right now with 100 amazing channels, including our newest, the Beatles channel. And you can listen free through May 30th. 2 glorious weeks of commercial-free music plus talk, sports, comedy, news, and more. SiriusXM is on free right now. So let's put some joy in that ride.
Hey, Janet.
Hey, Kim.
Can you suggest any good house painters?
I'll take quotes from your
Top 4 guys and free background checks and reviews for each of them.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So to find and book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask HomeAdvisor.
Fabletics by Kate Hudson. I love the Monarch print. I'm super into our medium support product. I love the Broga mesh. When you're putting it on, you're like so happy.
This Memorial Day, buy any pair of leggings, get a second pair free. Only at Fabletics.com.
Since everything's included at Beaches and the Grill in Jamaica, you can do all the things you love with the ones you love. Because the best thing you can give your family on vacation is you.
That's right, my generation. We're all about a good time. We're all about a good life. You won't believe it till you see. This is gonna be a fun ride. We're all about
Beaches all-inclusive resorts where you can feel like family again. Call 1-800-BEACHES and save up to 65%.
I used to have to go in to the auto parts store. Pay too much, never find quite what I'm looking for. Now I just go online and rock out and see all the parts my car will ever need. Lower prices, more parts, more brands. It's so easy to find the right parts fast. All the parts What's your call to me? I gotta what's your call to me? I gotta come. Hopping on a dream. Hopping like blind. We are always running for the thrill of it, thrill of it. Always pushing up that hill, searching for the thrill of it.
Direct from our imagination, the Civic. Get a great deal on KBB.com's best overall buy for 2017.
I'm Chris Wallace. Keeping America safe after the terror attack in England. What steps is the government taking this Memorial Day weekend?
It's a constant threat, and we always have to be vigilant.
We'll discuss the investigation into the bombing and the response here in the U.S. with the Secretary of Homeland Security, General John Kelly, live only on Fox News Sunday. Then new reports the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, discuss setting up a secret communications channel between the Trump transition and the Kremlin. We'll ask our Sunday panel where this takes the expanding probe into Russian interference. Plus, President Trump returns from his first trip overseas to a domestic agenda in trouble. From Obamacare repeal and replace to the budget, some on Capitol Hill wonder whether Congress will pass anything.
Yes, definitely dead on arrival.
This is a step backwards. You're not going to make America great again with this budget.
We'll break down the president's priorities and prospects with the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, Dick Durbin, and Republican Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy. And our Power Player of the Week, Flying High with the Blue Angels.
Boy, is it sweet when we put all that together and get that synergy and you feel that fuzz.
All right now on Fox News Sunday. And hello again on this Memorial Day weekend from Fox News in Washington. President Trump is back at the White House, arriving late last night after a largely successful 9-day trip to the Middle East and Europe. But he returns to a spreading scandal about links between the Kremlin and some of his current and former advisors, and to a domestic agenda that stalled in Congress. We'll get to all of that this hour, but we begin with terror. That suicide bombing at a concert in Manchester, England that killed 22, just the first of 4 savage attacks this week around the world. Joining us now, the man in charge of keeping America safe, the Secretary of Homeland Security, General John Kelly. Mr. Secretary, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Chris.
Before we get to terror, let me ask you about the hot story in Washington now, these revelations about Jared Kushner trying to set up some kind of back channel to the Kremlin through the Soviet and the Russian ambassador. Your reaction to that? Is there anything improper with that?
Well, I don't know if it's true or not. I know it's being reported in the press. But
it has been confirmed to me the conversation took place.
That I would just tell you, Chris, that I think any channel of communication, back or otherwise, with a country like Russia is a good thing. I mean, multiple ways to communicate back and forth is a good thing with any country, I think, and particularly a country that's like Russia. It doesn't bother me. I mean, you just have to assume, obviously, that what you're getting is may or may not be true. They may be working you, but that's the whole point. I mean, then that communication then goes into the White House as a data point in terms of discussion. So I don't see a big deal.
You say you don't see a big deal?
No, I think any time you have channels of communication with a country, particularly one like Russia, I wouldn't criticize it.
But you talked about a data point into the White House. This is during the transition. These were private officials. We have one president at a time. Does that make a difference?
I mean, obviously during the transition period, the people in transition, the incoming Trump administration is not in a position to do anything to inhibit what the Obama administration, literally days before they transitioned out. Again, as they begin to build relationships, there's nothing wrong with that. As they begin to build their own situational awareness with Russia in this case, I don't see an issue here.
Okay, let's turn to your day job. What's the latest on the Manchester bombing? Have they rolled up the network that was supporting the bomber, and what have you learned from this plot that will help you better protect the U.S. homeland?
I mean, I don't know what actually a better way to put it, I can't comment on whether they've finished their investigations or completed rolling up on the network that we're dealing with. But I would just say that this is I've said it many times, really a generational struggle. This is one tragedy in line with dozens of other tragedies in the world. I mean, last week you had Manchester, you had Egypt, you had Indonesia, and you had the Philippines, all ISIS-inspired or ISIS-controlled
But was there something different about this network and the way this was pulled off that says to you, gee, we've got to up our game?
Well, there's kind of, in my view, there's kind of three types of terrorist attacks. There's the most sophisticated that we look at, and that is against aviation. That's the hardest to do, but it's the biggest payoff for these people. Then you have kind of the middle of the road one, which I think this one was. It's a network. It's hard to do. You have to construct a bomb and all. And then you have kind of the low end where, I mean, just as tragic, but you have people running people over in trucks, that kind of thing. But this is just the way terrorism is today, and I think it'll be around for many, many years to come. The good news is, those officials in the United Kingdom, Europe, around the world are relentless. They're just as relentless in terms of trying to prevent these things as the terrorists are in trying to create them. The good news is for our country, we have not had an outside the United States terrorist attack since 9/11, and that goes to the issue of those that fight our away game. That's DOD, NSA, CIA, and those that fight the home game. That's DHS, FBI, local law enforcement.
Let me pick up on this, because part of the story that this week was the leak of information about the bomber and the bombing that made its way into the U.S. media, and that set off this exchange.
I will make clear to President Trump that intelligence that is shared between our law enforcement agencies must remain secure.
We take full responsibility for that, and we obviously regret that happened.
How was this kind of sensitive information leaked to the New York Times? And General, why is it that, whether it's politics or terror, our intelligence agencies, our law enforcement agencies can't keep a secret?
It's outrageous. When I called immediately after the attack, I called my counterpart in UK, offered my condolences. By the way, the third time I've offered her my condolences in 120 days. That's how frequent this kind of these terrorist attacks are happening. Anyways, she rightfully and very graciously accepted the condolences and leaned into me on this leak. It's outrageous. I don't know why people do it. It jeopardizes not only investigations but puts people's lives in jeopardy. I don't know why people do it, but they do, and that's the world we live in.
Let's get to what you're going to try to do to protect the homeland. There are a lot of crowded events in the summer, concerts, sporting events. How do you harden these soft targets like this concert was, and do you have new thoughts, because this person didn't get into the event, he was outside the event. What do you do about perimeters?
One of the great things about America, I mean, there's many great things, but we are a free and open society, and I wouldn't change that at all. But that's also one of our vulnerabilities. People can live their lives day in and day out, privacy issues, all of that. It's a good thing. It's what America is all about. But as I say, that is a vulnerability. The good news is, and to all Americans, I mean, the good news is that local, state law enforcement today, not to even go down the issue of the FBI, DHS, it's in their DNA now to harden. And we're just about as hard as we can be. I don't know if there's a way to prevent these kind of things in the kind of society we live in.
Let me pick up on that, because I want to play a clip of your testimony before Congress this week. Here it is.
It's everywhere, and that's the nature of this threat that we're dealing with. As horrible as Manchester was, my expectation is we're going to see a lot more of that kind of attack.
Lot more of that kind of attack here in the U.S.?
I think we're relatively, we have no specific, we have threats all the time, but no right now specific threat. But that goes to the fact that we are over here and not over there. The fact is that as the caliphate is being destroyed, that is Syria and Iraq, there are large numbers of returning fighters, Western Europe, and in many cases like this guy that did this thing in Manchester, he's a citizen of UK in this case. He's a passport holder. I don't know if the UK had any idea that he was outside. I know that he was in Libya, but I think he's also traveled to other points. The point is, they have a real threat, and it's growing, it's metastasized. As fighters come back from the caliphate, I believe there'll be more of this kind of thing. The good news is, all decent people, all decent governments, and it doesn't matter whether we're politically close to them or not, all governments, for the most part, are sharing tremendous amounts of information, passport-type information, aviation traveler information, but, people like this are below the radar.
I want to pick up on aviation because you're in the process of making some big decisions on aviation, and I want to do a lightning round, quick questions, quick answers.
Okay.
Are you going to ban laptops from the cabin on all international flights, both into and out of the U.S.?
I might. That's a quick answer.
Yeah, well, expand a little bit.
Well, there's a real threat. There's numerous threats against aviation. That's really the thing that they're obsessed with, the terrorists, the idea of knocking down an airplane in flight, particularly if it's a U.S. carrier, particularly if it's full of mostly U.S. folks, people. It's real. You know that I implemented, I think on the 21st of March, a restriction on large electronic devices in the cabins from 10 points of origin.
But now let's talk, as you say, about all international flights, both into and out of the U.S. Well, you say you might. When are you going to make that decision, and what's going to determine
We're still following the intelligence. The very, very good news is, again, that we are working incredibly close with friends and partners around the world. We are going to, and in the process of defining this, but we're going to raise the bar for, generally speaking, aviation security much higher than it is now. And there's new technologies down the road, not too far down the road, that we'll rely on. But it is a real sophisticated threat, and I'll reserve that decision until we see where it's going.
Another lightning round question. I do need a quick answer here because we're running out of time. The TSA is testing tighter screening of carry-ons, and the idea that people who bring their carry-ons are going to have to unpack them and put food in one bin and electronics in another bin and paper in another bin. Are you going to spread that nationwide, and what's that going to do to screening lines?
Yeah, I mean, the reason we've done that, TSA of course works for me, the reason we've done that is because of people trying to avoid the $25 or $50 or whatever it is to check a bag, are now stuffing their carry-on bags to the point of, well, they can't get any more in there. So the more you stuff in there, the less the TSA professionals that are looking at what's in those bags through the monitors, they can't tell what's in the bags anymore. So
So you're going to do that nationwide?
We might, and likely will.
Soon?
Well, what we're doing now is working out the tactics, techniques, and procedures, if you will, in a few airports to find out exactly how to do that with the least amount of inconvenience to the traveler.
A couple of final questions I want to ask you about the travel ban. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a ruling this week continuing the stay on President Trump's revised travel ban, and I want to put up, the chief judge called it, the revised travel ban, an executive order that in text speaks with vague words of national security, but in context strips with religious intolerance, animus, and discrimination. Mr. Secretary, judge after judge has said that this is a Muslim ban that violates the Constitution.
They're dead wrong.
Well, I mean, you say that, but they're the ones who were...
They're wrong. Remember the 6 countries These were the same countries identified by the Obama administration that we should be extra cautious about, and backed up by the United States Congress. So that's where those 7 countries came from. The fact is that in those countries we have very little ability to actually vet the people that are coming out of those countries. So what the president, and it's not a travel ban, remember, it's a travel pause, what the president said, for 90 days we were going to pause in terms of people from those countries coming to the United States. That would give me time to look at additional vetting.
Okay, I want to pick up on that, and why you're even talking about the travel ban, because I want to put some numbers on. Take a look at this. The first executive order that was issued on January 27th banned citizens from 7 nations from entering the U.S. for 90 days, suspended the refugee program for 120 days, as you say, a pause, while you set up an extreme vetting program. It's now been 121 days since that first order. So why don't you have the extreme vetting program in place?
We're actually implementing it. The irony here is, had it stood, we would have had the 90 days to study. We're not even studying what would be procedures, because we're enjoined and can't do that. In the meantime,
we can't even study extreme vetting?
No. The irony here again is we can't study it, but I'm just guessing and implementing. But we are going to implement ways to determine who an individual is. And remember, most of these countries have no passports, they have no police, they have no intelligence. Many of the countries in question don't even have a U.S. embassy there to help us vet. The UN will tell you it's almost impossible to vet these people from these countries because there are no passports and all the rest of it. We have to figure out a way to determine who they are and why they're coming to the United States. Otherwise, we're guessing, and this president and John Kelly doesn't want to guess when it comes to national security and the protection of the U.S. population.
Secretary Kelly, thank you. Thanks for sharing part of your holiday weekend with us.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Up next, new reports that Jared Kushner attempted to set up a back channel between Russia and the Trump transition. We'll bring in our Sunday group to discuss the expanding Russia probe. Plus, what would you like to ask the panel about the continuous leaks in Washington? Just go to Facebook or Twitter at Fox News Sunday, and we may use your question on the air.
Need fast heartburn relief? Try Cool Mint Zantac. It releases a cooling sensation in your mouth and throat. Zantac works in as little as 30 minutes. Nexium can take 24 hours. Try Cool Mint Zantac. No pill relieves heartburn faster.
Dear Predictable, there's no other way to say this. It's over. I found a permanent escape from monotony. Together we are perfectly balanced. Our senses awake. Our hearts racing as one. I know this is sudden, but they say if you love something, set it free. See you around, Julia.
Mom, Dad, hi. I had a very minor fender bender tonight in an unreasonably narrow fast food drive-thru lane. But what a powerful life lesson. And don't worry, I have everything handled. I already spoke to our Allstate agent, and I know that we have accident forgiveness, which is so smart on your guys' part. Like the fact that they'll just forgive you.
4 weeks without the car.
Okay, yep, good night.
With accident forgiveness, your rates won't go up just because of an accident. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
Better buckle up. That inactive satellite radio of yours is ready to roll because the SiriusXM free listening event is on right now with 100 amazing channels, including our newest, the Beatles channel. And you can listen free through May 30th. 2 glorious weeks of commercial-free music plus talk, sports, comedy, news, and more. SiriusXM is on free right now. So let's put some joy in that ride.
and someday you might be calling me an energy farmer. Energy lives here.
Did you know 90% of couples disagree on mattress firmness? Fortunately, there's a bed where you both get what you want every night. Enter Sleep Number in the semi-annual sale going on now. Sleep IQ technology tells you how well you slept and what adjustments you can make. She likes the bed soft. He's more hardcore. So your sleep goes from good to great to wow. Only at a Sleep Number store. It's the lowest price ever on our temperature balancing i8 bed. Save $700 plus 36-month financing. Ends Monday. Go to sleepnumber.com for a store near you.
At Southern New Hampshire University, we traveled across the country to celebrate the success of our online students who couldn't attend graduation.
Thank you guys for giving me the chance again. It's something that I worked for a long time.
Because we believe student success is success worth celebrating.
Who did you get this degree for? I got it for me.
I did this for my mom.
I did it for you, bud.
Congratulations, Daddy.
Find your online graduate or undergraduate program today at snhu.edu.
We're furious about the past presidential election of a man whose presidency would eventually end in disgrace with his impeachment for obstruction of justice.
Hillary Clinton talking about Richard Nixon in her commencement speech at Wellesley College, but clearly taking a shot at President Trump. By the way, Nixon resigned before he was actually impeached. And it's time now for our Sunday group, the head of Heritage Action for America, Michael Needham, Charles Lane of the Washington Post, Gerald Seib from the Wall Street Journal,